All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving right into one of the biggest and frankly, most surprising team-ups in tech history. Your iPhone is getting a secret upgrade, and you won't believe who's behind it.
Okay, so what's really happening here? We all know it, Apple knows it, Siri needs a serious boost. And to pull it off, they're making a deal with a company you would absolutely never, ever expect.
So you gotta ask, right? Why would Apple, a company that's famous for doing everything in-house, make such a massive deal? Well, to get that, we have to talk about Siri's big problem. For years, while other AI assistants were getting leaps and bounds smarter, Siri just felt kind of stuck.
And let's be honest, it's a gap a lot of us have probably felt. You ask Siri a complex question, and it just fumbles. This quote here really nails it. Apple fell behind in the AI race, and they knew they needed a lifeline from the outside to catch up, and they needed it fast.
So, what's Apple's big play to get back in the game? Well, it's a move that honestly no one saw coming, and it completely shocked the tech world.
And look, this wasn't a snap decision. Apple did its homework. They kicked the tires on models from all the big names in AI. OpenAI, Anthropic, but in the end, they landed on one very, very surprising partner.
Yep, you are seeing that correctly. Google, the company behind Android, Apple's #1 rival, is now going to be the secret engine powering Siri on your iPhone. I mean, wow, it's an unbelievable pairing, and you can bet regulators are going to be looking at this one very, very closely. And we are not talking about some small experiment here. Apple is reportedly ready to spend around $1 billion per year. That's what it costs to get access to Google's cutting-edge AI. It just shows you the mind-boggling price tag of competing at the highest level of AI today.
But here is the really clever part. You will never ever see a Google logo on your screen. That's because Google is acting as a quiet technology provider. Think of it this way. Google built the engine, but Apple is driving the car, and they've made sure all the logos are completely hidden. It's a totally invisible partnership. So, $1 billion a year gets Siri a brand new brain. But what does that actually mean for you and me? Let's break down just how massive this power-up really is. This is a night and day difference. The old Siri, it was good for setting a timer, but that's about it. The new Siri is going to actually understand context, summarize long articles for you, and even help you plan out complicated, multi-step tasks. It's a whole new level of intelligence. And if you want to see it in black and white, just look at the numbers. Apple's current AI model has about 150 billion parameters. Google's Gemini, it's sitting at 1.2 trillion. That's an 8-fold jump in complexity. We're not just talking about an upgrade, it's like going from a bicycle to a rocket ship. So the big question is, how do they do this without just handing all your data over to Google? Well, it's pretty slick. You talk to Siri. For the really tough jobs, Google's Gemini model does the heavy lifting. But, and this is the key, it all happens inside Apple's own private cloud. Your data never actually leaves the Apple ecosystem. They get all the power without giving up control or your privacy.
But don't think for a second that this historic deal with Google is the end of the story. Oh no, this is just a pit stop. A very, very expensive and strategic pit stop on a much longer journey.
So here's Apple's two-part master plan. Short term, they're basically renting Google's super smart AI to catch up instantly, but at the same exact time, they are racing to build their own replacement internally so they can eventually own the entire technology stack themselves. And they're already hard at work on it. There's a secret internal project called Glenwood. The plan is to launch this refreshed Siri next spring, but the real goal is next year. That's when they hope to have their own trillion-parameter model ready to go, letting them eventually cut ties with Google and be fully independent.
But here's where the story gets even more complex, and honestly, pretty fascinating. This whole AI strategy, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Apple is playing a totally different game depending on where you are in the world.
For most of us in the West, Siri's new brain is going to be powered by this big Apple-Google deal, all running securely inside Apple's private cloud. Simple enough.
But over in China, it is a completely different universe. Google services are banned there, so they can't use Gemini. Instead, Apple is creating a totally separate version of Siri, relying on its own models, teaming up with local tech giant Alibaba for content filtering, and even exploring a partnership with Baidu.
This table really shows you the complex web Apple's weaving. They're the master integrator here. They're using Google as a temporary AI provider for most of the world, but in China, they're plugging in local partners like Alibaba and Baidu to navigate a totally different market. It's a wild global balancing act.
So it all comes down to the billion-dollar question. Partnering with your biggest rival is a bold, expensive, and incredibly risky move. But is this the gamble that will finally put Apple back on top of the AI world? Well, I guess we're all about to find out.